Well, so today I'm just going to cover some key points for biology regarding tomorrow's CA. Let's just start. So make sure, for one, you should make sure you have the cross-section of the heart memorized. You should know where to label what, because they will ask you to label the diagrams. So just know where the right atrium, the right ventricle, the left atrium and the left ventricle go, where the aorta, the pulmonary artery and vein, the superior vena cava, inferior vena cava. Just memorize the cross-section because they will ask you to label it. Now, to the general structure of the circulatory system, it's responsible. Okay, so the circulatory system in general is responsible for supplying the body with nutrients and oxygen. It includes the heart and a network of blood vessels. These blood vessels are arteries, capillaries, and veins. Now, arteries are composed of thick walls. They carry oxygenated blood away from the heart into the arterioles, which are tiny branches of arteries which further lead to capillaries. Now, blood pressure is created by the pumping action done by the heart, and it accounts the blood flow of the arteries. Capillary walls are only 1 cell thick, and it facilitates the exchange of material between blood and body cells. Blood flows from them into venules, into veins. Now, veins, on the other hand, other than arteries, veins have thinner walls than arteries. So arteries have thick walls, veins have thinner walls. Pulmonary veins carry back oxygenated blood back to the heart, which carry blood from lungs into the left atrium. The skeletal muscle contraction is what contributes blood flow into veins, so valves prevent backward flow. Keep in mind, valves don't open in both directions. They will only open in one direction, or else it can be really dangerous. So as you can see here, these are valves. Now, they're only going to open in one direction. It's not like they're going to open like in this way as well. They need to open only in this direction, because it's dangerous if they open in both directions. Okay, moving on. The muscles present in the walls of the heart are called cardiac muscles. You should know that because they will ask you to possibly fill in the blanks. Keep in mind, the left is the right side and the right is the left side. Now, this just means the cross-section of the heart. You may think that the left and right side are just as you think it is, but no. Your right side is the heart's left side, and your left side is the heart's right side. So, basically, when you look at the cross-section, you're going to think your right side is going to be the right atrium, but no. For the heart, your right is the left. So, this is the left atrium, and this is the left ventricle. And your left side is the right for the heart. So, this is the right ventricle, and this is the right atrium. Don't get confused between them. Just remember, it's going to be the opposite of what you think. Don't get confused. Now, there's 4 chambers. We have the right and left atrium, and we have the right and left ventricle. These are the upper chambers. These are the lower chambers. Ventricles have a much thicker wall, and they contract stronger. Now, the left and right sides of the heart are divided by a strong muscle wall called the septum. Now, remember the name septum. They may ask you that. This is the wall that divides, and it's called the septum. It divides the chambers. Now, the left ventricle has a thicker wall than the right ventricle. So, as you can see here in this cross-section, this is the left ventricle, and you can see the walls here are thicker than the ones here of the right ventricle. It's thinner. This is slightly more thicker. So, moving on. The right atrium, it gets deoxygenated blood from 2 veins, the superior and inferior vena cava. The right atrium pumps the blood to the right ventricle, okay? So the right atrium pumps the blood into the right atrium is here, so it pumps the blood into the right ventricle. Don't get confused. It's not the opposite. It's quite obvious though. The right ventricle then pumps the deoxygenated blood through the pulmonary artery into the lungs so it can be oxygenated. So let me just show you here. The right ventricle pumps blood into the pulmonary artery You can see it here, and then it goes to the lungs to be oxygenated again, because you can't have deoxygenated blood in your heart. That's very dangerous. Deoxygenated. Now moving on. Once the oxygenated blood is returned by the pulmonary veins, the left atrium pumps blood into the left ventricle, and then it contracts and pumps blood into the aorta. So, when it returns from the pulmonary vein into the left atrium, then to the left ventricle, it then moves into the aorta. This is the aorta. Now blood. Blood in general consists of red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma. Red blood cells are also known as erythrocytes. Red blood cells in general, they just have to transport oxygen, nutrients as well, but mostly just oxygen. Their shape is bioconcave and disc-shaped. They also lack nuclei and several organelles, so they don't really have any organs. Now, white blood cells, on the other hand, they're also called leukocytes. They're larger but less numerous than red blood cells are. They actually have a large nucleus, and they have several organelles. Their main role is to fight off bacteria and viruses, etc. Platelets, they're small cell fragments that lack a nucleus, and they're formed in bone marrow. Their main role is in blood clotting. Say if you get hurt, the platelets are going to form the scab that you get, which you then take off later on. Plasma is the liquid component of blood. Now, blood needs a liquid medium to flow in, and that liquid medium is plasma. It's a yellow fluid. Now, for extra points, when you see the blood divided, it's divided in a centrifuge machine. When they take your blood sample and they divide it into platelets, plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, it's all divided in a centrifuge machine. That's just extra details. I don't think you need to know that. Blood circulation. In the human body, blood passes twice through the heart. So this is known as double circulation. It has two pathways, pulmonary and systemic circulation. During pulmonary, sorry for the spelling, during the pulmonary circulation, the deoxygenated blood moves from the heart to the lungs, while in systemic, it's involved in oxygenated blood movement from the heart to other organs. So, I'm going to repeat that again. In the pulmonary circulation, deoxygenated blood moves from the heart to the lungs, while in the systemic, the oxygenated blood moves from the heart to other organs. Organisms such as fish have singular circulation. So, in general, humans and mammals have double circulation. Now, there's common diseases, atherosclerosis. This is characterized by the narrowing, obstruction, possibly obstruction, not definitely. This happens in arteries due to fatty deposits and buildup of something called plaque or atheroma. This can cause strokes and possibly kidney failure or coronary heart disease. So, this can also lead to cholesterol or other heart issues, like diabetes, possibly. So, keep in mind. The lymphatic system. This is just a quick note because there's not much to say about it. When blood passes through the blood capillaries, some blood plasma seeps through capillary walls. So basically, when the blood passes through the blood capillaries, some of the blood plasma, it seeps through capillary walls, and this leaked plasma, the one that leaks from the capillary walls, it's known as tissue fluid. Now, not all of this fluid seeps back into the blood, so not all of it goes back into the blood, but a small bit of it's retained in tissues. So, now this extra fluid is drained back into the blood by blood vessels, or also known as the lymphatic vessels. Now, apart from the lymphatic system returning fluid back into the blood circulation and all that, it is also involved in nutrient absorption and defense against infections. Now that we're done with these notes, just a quick recap of the cross-section. This is the pulmonary vein, this is the pulmonary artery, this is the aorta, superior vena cava, right atrium, and right ventricle. Again, don't get confused. This may be your left, but this is the right for the heart. This may be your right, but this is the left for the heart. So this is the left atrium, this is the left ventricle. And now I'm just gonna go to some questions from the CA. Now this question in general, you need to know this. I'm just gonna read it out quickly. An ECG measures the electrical activity of the heart. The figure below shows an ECG of one heartbeat. The P wave represents atrial contraction systole. The QRS segment represents ventricular contraction systole. And the T wave represents relaxation of the atria and ventricles, diastole. Now, memorize this because you just need to know this in general. There's not much to understand about it. Just memorize how it is. So the atrial ventricular valves are opened at P, and you can see it here. The semilunar valves are closed. Here they're opened in QRS. These atrioventricular valves are closed, and in semilunar valves they're opened. At T, the atrioventricular valves are opened and the semilunar valves are closed. Now you just need to memorize this because there's not much you can be explained to this. It's just a general graph you need to memorize. Now, regarding the questions and the chapter from last year, just memorize the answers we have in the quiz because they're most likely the only questions to come. They won't ask you anything other than that. They possibly can't really. So mostly, from my experience at least, they will definitely just ask you from the quiz. Just maybe in another way, but the questions from last year in general, just memorize them from the quiz. There's not much it's just gonna come the same anyway. You should memorize this. This isn't mentioned much, but this is one of those questions where they ask you to label diagrams. So you need to memorize this because it can get confusing. So A is plasma. Now plasma, as we said, is a liquid medium for the blood to be in. So it's just, there's no cell for it. So it's just this part. B is a platelet. You can see here, as we said before, platelets are fragments in the blood. C is a white blood cell. We said it has a large nucleus and it has organelles, so it makes sense that this is a white blood cell. D is a red blood cell. This makes sense. Why? Because the red blood cells, as we know, they lack nuclei, they lack organelles, and they're disc-shaped. So this is a red blood cell. E is also a white blood cell. Why? Because we can see it has organelles, so that just proves that it is a white blood cell. So again, just keep in mind, platelets are small, tiny fragments, as we said before. Plasma is the liquid medium in which blood flows. White blood cells consist of organelles and a large nuclei. Red blood cells, on the other hand, don't have any organelles, nor they lack a nuclei. They're disc-shaped, so as you can see here. And let's move to the next one. Now, these are selected questions I picked because I know they're quite the ones you need to memorize for sure. They can be a bit complicated with the photographs they give you. Now, here they've shown white blood cells. Now you have to identify them as phagocytes or lymphocytes. Now, in my opinion, just memorize these diagrams because there's not much mentioned about them in the book, so it's best if you get them from the quiz. Now, cell 2 is a phagocyte and cell 3 is a lymphocyte. So, I'm not sure if they have anything about it here. Okay, I don't think they've mentioned it here. But just memorize the diagrams they give in the quiz because they're most likely to ask you about that and you might not know them, so just memorize it. Okay, now, so here it's about single circulation. this diagram is for single circulation, and as we said before, single circulation is found in fish. Double circulation is mostly in humans, mammals in general. Now, what happens in the circulation? The blood passes through the heart only once for each complete circulation. So they don't have to have double circulation for it to go twice through the heart. The oxygenated blood flows from the gills to the rest of the organs and tissues. Now, obviously, fish don't have lungs. Fish breathe from gills, so that's why it flows from the gills to the rest of the organs and tissues, unlike in humans. So memorize this. As we said before, it can look a bit complicated, but no, it's not. They're going to give you diagrams of the blood vessels. Now, which blood vessel is a vein and which is a capillary? So A is a vein and C is a capillary. As we said, capillaries are only 1 cell thick. So this is very small and it's only 1 cell thick. Now, arteries have thick walls, as we can see here, thick walls. Veins, on the other hand, have thin walls. So I think that's pretty much it. As for the questions about last year, memorize them from the quiz, because there's no way they're possibly going to ask you much from the book. They're most likely to come from the quiz, especially like the questions about the lime water and carbon dioxide. Make sure you memorize the formulas for the anaerobic and aerobic respiration, and that's it. I hope you guys do well in tomorrow's CA. Good luck.